welcome back to Basics on Bass. I am Burl, but sadly today, I am Burl without the beard of believability. Being the summer months, Pearl does not like beard sweat. So, for the summer months, we're clean shaven. But however, to increase my believability factor, I do have my Johnny Cash shirt, and I do have my camouflage hat, which is required for all those people who play bass. So we're good to go. So far up to this point, we've been working on what notes to play. We learned our way around the fretboard, we learned how to play from a chord chart, and we learned as part of the chord chart, we know now what notes to play. You know, if we're playing from a chord chart, it's perfectly okay. If the chords are C, F, and G, it's okay to just I only played 3 notes. And that's okay. A lot of songs you'll figure out are 3 chords. So playing the right note is not going to take up a lot of your time. In fact, it shouldn't take up a lot of your time because it'll help keep your playing where it's supposed to be. What we're going to work on today, and we're going to work on up to, from all the lessons from now on, is going to be when to play those notes. Originally I was going to try to do this in one video, but that just wasn't going to work. So I talked about the penultimate video last time, which should have been second to the end, but it's not going to be second to the end because I think we need to break this down because this is the most important topic we're going to cover, when to play. This is when you're playing with a band. Bass is a great instrument. It's not a great instrument necessarily to sit here and jam on, and I don't quite think that's how you should be playing bass anyway. One of the questions I get is, what is the role of the bass player? Well, the bass is part of the rhythm section. Unlike the piano and the guitar, rhythm section primarily consists of the drums and the bass, and they should play off of each other. Your drummer is the one setting the rhythm, setting the groove, setting the feel of the song. The bass then outlines the chord, basically translating that beat that the drummer is putting down into music so people, the guitar players, the pianists, and most importantly the singers, can play off of that or sing off of that. I have a singer who has said quite often that she keys on the bass because I'm the one who's outlining the chord changes. The drummer's laying down the groove. I might be outlining that chord change when it changes from D down to C or something like that. A lot of times those are the cues for our singers to be able to play. And so it's key to me to know when to play those notes. Now what I don't want to do, and you're going to see the way I play, is I don't want to be playing all over the place. And why? Because I just explained what the role of the bass is. The bass is to outline the chord and quite oftentimes give cues to the singers as when to change chords, things like that, or when to sing a certain verse or something like that, or certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Lyric within a verse. So if I'm up here going all over the place, that's kind of hard to follow, and it really doesn't make a lot of sense. You can make it actually sound pretty, but that's not really the role of the bass player. The role of the bass player is to be outlining the chord, and if I have a D chord and a C chord, that can mean just as simple as playing those notes. So there's 2 rules regarding bass playing. Rule number 1 is simplify your notes, don't overplay. Rule 2 is if you don't understand that, see rule 1. All right? So what I'm saying is this is not rocket science. Play simple. There's a ton of videos out there explaining the exact same thing. So I'm not the only person saying this. I've never heard somebody play or somebody say, hey, oh my God, dude, you're not playing enough. You got to be really a lot more crazy on that bass. I don't know why. That's just not something you're going to hear a lot of people say. So again, we're looking at simple. We're now going to try to lock in with our drummer. So again, I told you, I understand now what the role of the bass is. It's to be simple. It's to translate from that drummer to the rest of the band so they know the lyrics, they know the chord changes, they know things like that. How do you do that? You know, I remember in high school, the music teacher just yelling at me all the time, you got to lock in with the drummer. You got to lock in with the drummer. Well, I had no idea what that meant. So I'm just sitting there watching the drummer like, yeah, I'm locked in, baby. We're rocking and rolling. So what that means is your drummer is going to be laying down a groove. And I have the luck to play with some fantastic drummers. In fact, one of them is probably listening and is going to listen to this video. You know who you are, Jason. Who is fantastic at putting down a groove, which makes it very easy for a bass player to listen to. What am I listening to? Am I listening to his hi-hat? Am I listening to his cymbals? Listening to his toms? No. Really kind of two things I'm listening to. The number one, absolute most important that I'm keying off is his bass drum. What he is doing with the boom, 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 ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. I am going to have my bass part quite often match that or accent what he's playing on that. And we'll talk a little bit more about when the rhythms get a little bit more complicated. We're maybe listening to the snare drum as well. But 90% of the time, as a bass player, if you are locked in to that rhythm, the drummer is playing on his bass drum, you're going to be all set. There's a lot of books that talk about this. There's the Berkeley, there's the Bass Method, which is written by Berkeley Publications. Actually, I think it's called the Berkeley Method of Playing Bass, something like that. It's a fantastic book. But what you can also do, just listen to music. And by listening to music, you're not necessarily listening to the bass part, listen to the drums and try to figure out what would I play if I were the bass player. And quite often, what you're going to play after listening is very similar to what they're going to play. I have a couple samples, and what I want to do over the coming weeks is show a couple samples of what I'm talking about. There's a couple songs, that are really easy to say, okay, I hear the drum, now let's get a good bass part to match. The first song I'm going to play is called Beautiful Surrender. And it starts off, it's got a galloping, what we call like a galloping feel. It's dun da da 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 dun dun da da. So it's a dotted eighth and a 16th going like that. And you're going to hear that, and you're going to hear how the drum and the bass are together. I've kind of queued it up so it's like in the middle of the song because I want to go through all the introduction. I just wanted you to hear that for a little bit. All right, so I'm listening, and I'm going to try to play along with it. All right. So what I'm playing is, what I'm hearing is... And that's exactly what the the drummer is playing on his bass drum, on his kick drum. His kick drum is going. So I'm locking in with the bass drum, and that's why it sounds tight. That's why it sounds good, is because we're locked in together. The bass drum and the bass guitar are locked in. So when people talk about locking in with your drummer, that's what they mean. Listen to what the drummer is playing and then try to lock into it. And I'm going to cue up a different part a little farther in, and you're going to hear the feel of the song change. So it's still galloping here. And I don't know if you could hear that subtle change there, but it really makes a big difference. It started off as the galloping with the bass drum, dun da da dun da da dun da da dun. Now in this part, listen to the drums and listen to what you're going to hear. It's kind of hard to hear the bass drum, but hear the snare. He changes from that gallop, dun da dun da dun da dun, to now, dum dum chicka dum dum ch, with the accent on the snare, just 1, 2, 3, 4. And so try to listen to that. I don't know if you can hear that, but hear the big snare on the 2 and 4. 3, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So that's called like a straight feel, something like that. And so the drum, he's playing on his bass drum on 1 and 3, so it's like bass drum snare, bass drum snare, bass drum snare, bass drum snare. So what it doesn't make sense for me as the bass player is to keep that galloping feel, dun da da dun da da dun, because that's not what the drummer is playing now. The drummer on his bass drum just has that 1 and 3 kick, and then on the snare he's got 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then sometimes it'll be different, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's kind of irrelevant on which he's doing on 1 and which he's doing on 4. But it's straight time, so I'm changing my feel on that one to this. I'm going bum ba dum 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 ba dum. Now, and I'm changing the feel to da na 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 na. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So the drummer has changed the feel. I am also changing the feel. When it goes to kind of what I'll call that straight 4/4 time, if you listen to 90% of 70s rock where the drummer is just dum dum chicka dum dum chick, you are totally fine just da na 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 na. So that's what I talk about with locking in with your drummer. We had the gallop. Here's our drummer doing the gallop, dum da dum da dum da da dum, and it's what he's doing with this kick drum. If I were a drummer, I'd be able to show you that, but that's what he's doing with this kick drum, doom ba boom ba boom ba boom, and so on, boom ba boom ba boom ba boom, and that makes it really easy for me. Actually, it's kind of nice way the rhythm section is set up. Typically, as your drummer is right here. As a bass player, I'm right here, and the drummer is raised a little bit. I'm able to look over, and I can watch what he's doing on his kick drum or bass drum as I'm playing along to make sure he and I are locked in rhythm. Then he changes to the just straight eighth notes and dum dum chicka dum dum chick, and I'm just changing up too, going dum. So that's the first lesson on locking in with the bass drummer. And I showed the song. The song again is called Beautiful Surrender. You can listen to it and listen to the different feels of the two different parts. The galloping part versus the straight up part. There's also a subtle part in the middle where it changes to quarter notes. But those are the two main feels of the gallop. And then I'm locking in with the gallop. And then it's a straight eighth notes. And I'm locking in with the straight eighth notes. Again, kind of to summarize this is as you're getting better and better on bass, the right notes are going to kind of come to you pretty easily. Especially, you know, I got done playing today and I probably played the root note probably 85 to 90% of the time. All I was doing is just playing the root note. So it really wasn't that difficult to figure out the right note to play. What was more important and what really kind of kept the cranium going is when to play that note. So I was locked in with the drummer. Because if you're not locked in with the drummer, it's going to sound like crap. And if you're locked in with the drummer, it's going to sound great. I've actually, so we do in the beginning, we kind of have the drummer set down a groove. And then I start grooving with him so we can kind of check to hear kind of a mic check. And he always tries to lay down some sort of crazy beat for me. But we've played together for so long and we're so locked in with each other. Is he starts laying down a beat and I can just lock in right away with him because I'm listening to that bass drum, and then we get a really good groove going. I had a guy for the first time who was playing with us, and Jason started laying down the beat and I kind of looked over and I started grooving with him, and this guy was like, how do you do that? How do you know what to play? Because he was a guitar player, and I was explaining that I was locking in with what my drummer was playing. So I don't want to go super in depth. Maybe what I think we're going to do over the next few weeks is we're going to pick some songs and we're going to try to lock in with the feel that that drummer is laying down. This one is really nice because it's got two very, very distinct feels. So even by listening to it, you can tell the difference, and now right away you're trying to figure out what you should play. We'll go through some songs for the next couple weeks. I'll try to play like some old 70s heavy metal or hard rock that's just straight up eighth notes. Another song I'm probably going to use is called as Amy Winehouse, You Know I'm No Good, because it's got some really fantastic parts of how to be kind of locked in with a complicated drum part. So until that time, like I said, if you can spend 10 to 15 minutes per day working on what notes to play, now more importantly, knowing when to play those notes. You can either listen along to songs on there if you have a drummer friend, work with your drummer friend, or to simply play along with an MP3 or any song like that, or even just play along with the radio. But as a bass player, you want to play along with a group and understand what your role is. So I had a fantastic time with this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. And again, I'm Burl on bass. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.